Hi, folks. Steve Urban here, host of the Riderflex podcast and founder and CEO of our day job recruiting firm, Riderflex. We hope you enjoy this episode. And as a reminder, please subscribe to the podcast for updates and news. Finally, if you haven't already, check out the series of books we've published on hiring, interviewing, and overall career advice titled The Riderflex Guide, available on Amazon. And now, a quick word from our sponsor.
Most homeowners don't have the time or expertise to properly take care of their home, which causes costly issues to arise. That's where Cura Home Maintenance comes in. We're a full-service, routine maintenance company that was developed by a certified home inspector. Each quarter, we service our clients' homes following manufacturer's recommendations to properly maintain all the necessary appliances. We provide the materials and expertise to prolong the life of your property, creating a healthy and efficient environment for your family. From top to bottom, we'll maintain and service your home. To get started, we have a property inspection to determine what needs to be maintained, and a maintenance plan is created based on your preferences. From refrigerator coils to filters, vents, and drains, we do it all, and we do it well. Contact us today for your free routine maintenance inspection, and never worry about your maintenance again.
Frank Ricciardi on the Riderflex podcast. Hello, Frank. How are you, sir?
Steve, I am great. Great to be here. Excited about our conversation.
Nice to connect with you. Are you in beautiful LA?
I am in sunny Los Angeles. Yes. It's starting to heat up like it is everywhere else in the world.
It is pretty warm, even in Colorado. Usually at my house, it's 85. Today it was 96 or so, which is kind of hot for us.
Are you close to the mountains? How close are you to the mountains?
Oh, probably 20 minutes, but high enough elevation to where it should be cooler.
Should be cooler.
But I do have a nice spot up in the Wyoming Medicine Bow National Forest where I will be heading this weekend, where it is definitely cooler. Definitely cooler.
Amazing. I love Wyoming. I love it.
And me too. Me too. Now, speaking of states, so I saw you went to college in Philly.
I did.
So I'm like, oh, was he originally an East Coast guy? And I wonder where are you from originally, Frank?
So born in Philly.
Okay.
Mom and dad are both from Philly. So
okay.
Different parts though, like two different worlds. Dad's from South Philadelphia.
All right.
He's the Italian part. Okay. And mom grew up on University of Pennsylvania's campus. And she's the German part. So
gotcha.
Yeah, I was born there, but actually raised in New Jersey, just about, 8 miles over the river.
Okay.
So I say I'm from Philly, but I'm really from New Jersey.
Oh, you went to high school and stuff in New Jersey then?
In southern New Jersey, correct.
Gotcha. What'd your folks do?
Dad is a serial entrepreneur.
Oh, that's where that comes
77 years old and still working.
Is he?
Will never stop. And my mom, and by the way, he was in the dental business. So okay. On the dental technician side, all right. So he had a series of business making false teeth and caps and crowns and appliances for, to make us pretty.
Cool.
And my brother and sister actually followed in his footsteps, went into the dental business. Brother's a dental technician. My sister's a dental hygienist. And mom raised us. So she had the hard job.
Yeah. Three of you. Where were you in the mix? The oldest, or where were you?
I was the oldest and most perfect.
Were you? Yeah. What kind of kid were you? Were you a rebel, straight A student?
I was a good kid, Steve.
Were you?
I just kind of did everything I was supposed to do.
Did you? Okay.
And I mean, let me be clear. I had the wherewithal to never get caught. Whereas my younger brother had the wherewithal to never not get caught. So we're two different people, but are raised by the same parents, but took two different approaches.
All three kids went through college?
Two and a half. My brother didn't finish.
The rebel didn't finish.
The rebel didn't finish, but he became a real master. Like my father, actually, is sort of highly regarded in his field as a master of what he does. He is an artist, really. I mean, he makes teeth. It's not just the like stamp and repeat. There's art to it. And my brother actually, is just as good as my father.
Oh, okay. Very good. And they're all, so everybody's on the East Coast but you.
They're all on the East Coast, and they all are like, within a couple miles of one another. So I was the one who they were like, what's wrong with this kid? And I left. I'm a bit of an escapist, which probably as we talk, you'll see what that means for me. But yeah, I left when I was right after college. I went to college in Philly. So
yeah, you went to college.
I left right after college.
Did you leave and for a job right away, or you just like, I want to get out of here. I want to do something different?
I had an interesting university experience because I played sports in college.
I saw that you were a swimmer. You were a swimmer, I think.
I was a diver.
Oh, a diver. Sorry.
Yeah,
okay.
I was on the swim team, but a diver.
Okay. All right.
And like had a double major and was kind of like doing my like a little overachiever kind of thing. And when I left university, my first job was in Philadelphia, but I worked, I went to visit a buddy in Los Angeles, and I was like, I gotta come here. And so I stayed with that company, but I worked to get them to migrate me to the West Coast. So.
Now, before we get into that, I want to ask you about some diving real quick. So was Drexel, it's D1, right?
D1, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, hey, D1 sports, whatever the sport is that's a big deal.
It's a real deal. That's a real deal. Yeah, we had to be wet by 5:15 every morning. If you weren't wet by 5:15, you were in trouble.
Yeah, were you on scholarship?
Yeah,
were you?
Yeah, and I was actually a late bloomer, Steve. It was interesting. I was found out. I always liked to mess around on the diving board when I was a kid, but I was found out by accident. I don't know. I was probably a sophomore in high school. I was messing around on the diving board, and the diving coach
happened to be there
and said to me, you have kinesthetic awareness, I can tell, which means you know where you are when you're upside down and backwards.
Okay.
And I was like,
yeah, all
do
right.
you want to try out? And I was like, yeah, let's do it. And then I was like, my first year I was in States, and cool. It went the year and a half later, I was getting a scholarship. So how
about that? That's pretty. Now, cool. Do divers get the chicks in college just like the football players, or how does that work?
Well, so yes, but I did, but I'm gay, and so
did you get the guys?
I didn't get the guys because I wasn't out, but I had a girlfriend the entire time. So that caused a little bit of like emotional drama, but.
We have to go now. You got me. I have to go down that road with you. What? How old are you?
I'm going to be 52 in a couple weeks.
Okay, so
I was in college in 1989 to 93, 94. Yeah.
Okay, so I graduated college in 89. Definitely harder to come out then than it is now, I think. I mean, I'm pretty sure.
100%. Yeah. I mean,
so all the time, I know you don't want to make the whole show about this, but the whole time you're in college, you're sneaking around.
No, I wasn't sneaking around. I was just not out. I was doing anything I could
to like hide it. Yeah.
To hide it.
Wow, bro.
And
that must have sucked.
It sucked. It sucked.
Yeah, that sucked.
But I learned what turned out to be a coping mechanism of putting on a mask and hiding.
Yeah.
Turned out to be a superpower in my career, and we'll get into that. I'm sure. I'll tell you why.
Okay.
But yeah, it's not easy to not be yourself, and you don't know any better. And look, to be quite honest, I'm 52, and I'm still like working out the kinks.
Seriously?
Yeah, it's not something that it sticks with you for life. So you have to be really aware of kind of its impacts, the behavioral thing, behaviors that it creates, and belief systems that it takes some unwinding.
Do you find, well, I got to ask, first I want to ask you kind of a silly joking question. The girlfriend that you had in college, I mean, were you guys like fooling around, or what was there like, okay, I'm doing this, but I don't like to, like, what?
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. And it was,
wow.
It was,
okay.
it was, in looking back, I feel bad about that.
Yeah, I could see that.
I carry some guilt around.
I could see that.
She's such a beautiful, lovely, amazing woman.
You still know her? You guys still talk?
Still know her. I mean, we don't talk every day, but still know her. And
that's cool.
So proud of her and who she's become.
That's so great. That's very good. That's very good. When old girls call me when old girls like reach me out or reach out to me like on Facebook or whatever, because I see the podcast now. They're like, you remember me, Sally, from that one party that we were at? I'm like, yeah. And I always say yes. I remember.
Yeah. But now you're famous.
And then I'm looking, I'm like, oh man, I don't know. I don't remember.
You don't have the book? You don't have the little black book that you...
I had one when I met my wife, but that got thrown away.
So she took it and burned it.
You know what I did, Frank, recently? I'm sorry, I don't mean to. I'm turning this back on me, but I got to tell this. Speaking of the college days, because I definitely slept around. I did that, not 23andMe, but the other one, the ancestry deal. Yeah, I sent my DNA in. The reason I sent my DNA in is because I was trying to figure out who my real blood father was, which I didn't find out till later in life.
Okay.
It started off with, I want to find out where my real blood father and blah, blah, blah. Well, afterwards, I started thinking, oh, shit, like, this actually could come back on me. Like I could, if I get it, once I'm in the system, now it kicks out. Now some 32-year-olds on,
Yeah.
Hey, hello, Dad. I found you.
It's a scary thing. And I actually have a story about 23andMe, actually, my poor mother. So my mother raised us to believe that she was 100% through and through German and incredibly proud of it.
Oh boy, here we go.
My father is 100% Italian. It's clear. There's no debate about my father's Italianness and his family and the legacy. And one year I got the whole family 23andMe for Christmas. And
oh boy,
my mother and my sister, my brother and my dad, they all spit in the tube. They send it in, it comes back.
Yeah.
And it turns out my dad's all Italian. The kids are half. And the other half of us is Irish. And my poor mother was devastated. Like she didn't believe it. She did, and of course her identity was built around being German. But she's a little bit.
Was there a kicker? Was there a kicker where there was a great grandfather in there that you thought was, but actually no?
But she had a couple percentage points of German, and
all right.
And so now my favorite thing to do is wish her a happy St. Patty's Day. And she now gets a kick out of it, but she was pissed at me for a couple of years.
That's one of the things I hear about those DNA things a lot is that it comes back to you come to find out grandpa was not as straight and narrow. He drifted over here to a few other women. Right. Anyway.
And back then you kept it on the continent. You weren't going to other countries.
Right. I mean, can you imagine in 1954, you pull into some town, you're a sales guy. 1954, you meet some girl at a diner.
Yeah.
You're gone the next day. She never can find, I mean, there's no looking you up. Like,
no. And what about that documentary on the guy who they found out he had 11 children within a 30-mile radius, and nobody knew. I forget what it was called, but I was like, whoa, the guy was active.
So good. Okay, so all right, you're in college. All right, so you're a Division I swimmer. That's a big deal. I just want to go back to that. Yeah, that's a big. Anytime I interview somebody that played Division I sports, I have a lot of respect for that because that takes a lot of commitment to do that.
Commitment,
all the way through. So you graduate, you went out to visit a buddy in LA, and you're like, holy shit, look at this weather. Okay, yeah, I want to be here.
Yeah. Actually, just before I left and before I had my first job, though, I became the coach of my university.
Oh, no shit. Okay.
So for my first 2 years, I was with Anderson Consulting, and I was based in Philadelphia, and I would leave my job and I would go coach the team, which I loved. I loved it. You know,
great. Oh, that's really, are you tall? Big guy?
I'm not tall. I'm 5'6", so I'm a short guy.
Oh, I thought all divers were like, I don't know. Maybe that's,
they look better in the air when they're longer. So I had a slight disadvantage, but I also had a slight advantage that I could rotate a lot faster.
Interesting. All right, very good.
I can get into a little ball, and they got into a big ball.
Was the trip to LA to see the friend? I'm guessing. I'm going to guess. I'm going to make an educated guess. That friend was gay, and you felt comfortable going out to LA where he said, "Come visit my gay friends," and it's okay to be out here.
Yeah. So fast forward, I eventually obviously came out, and I came out when I was working at a very conservative company, which is actually an interesting conversation. But
yeah.
My small cadre of now gay friends, who I kind of connected with and felt comfortable with in Philadelphia, we all went out to visit.
I see,
and we all wanted to live there, and I was the one that said, "I'm going to live here within a year," and I did.
Good for you, man. That's great. Yeah. Your parents, your family, when you're like, "I'm going to LA, see you," were they like, "Where are you going? We all live here." Like, what are you doing? No, we're East Coast people.
Yeah, they didn't love it. And you can imagine they didn't love it when I kept going on to Hong Kong, but we'll get there. But, they're like, you keep getting further and further away. But yeah, no, they didn't love it. It was far for them. My family are not like naturally like, "Hey, let's just jump on a plane once a month." Okay. They're more kind of rooted in where they are.
Okay. You said your dad's still alive. Your mom's still good too?
Yeah, but everybody's still alive. Okay. Yeah.
Good. All right, good. And now, relationship, partner, husband, or single, social, what's the status?
Single right now. My last relationship was all during COVID, which was great. And then COVID ended, and we were like, we should get to know each other. Because can you imagine a COVID relationship? "Hey, nice to meet you. Let's live together for a year while we're in lockdown." And then, you're not going on dates. You're like making dinner. You're being domestic. And then COVID ends, and you're like, we've never been to the movies. We've never. But,
interesting. And then yeah.
He moved to Miami, actually. He was Argentinian, and his father and stepmother and brother moved to Miami, and he wanted to be with them deeply. Okay. And I wasn't ready to go to Miami.
I feel for you, man. 50 years old and up, single. And I don't care whether you're straight or gay. I don't think it's not fun, right? I mean, I have several 55 and up friends that have gone through divorces in the last few years.
Yeah.
And I'll meet them for drinks, and they're like, "Bro, this sucks. Like, I don't want to be single. I don't want to be by myself." And they all have weekend friends they can come over. Okay, I'm going to have this little Saturday night thing. And that's cool. They're all like, "Yeah, that's cool and all." But the reality is I want like somebody.
Yeah, like if you're looking for a relationship and you're going to date and you're going to get on the apps, you're going to it's a different world. And dude, my approach, Steve, is
I don't know how to do it.
It's authenticity and the energy I put out in the world. My thing in life is about allowing things to come as opposed to searching for things.
Okay.
And so as I bump around and navigate my own life journey, it'll happen. It'll all kind of happen. And if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. Life's not going to stop.
But you don't strike me. You have a pretty high EQ. Your people skills are pretty damn high. I can tell by looking at your LinkedIn profile and just talking to you for a few minutes, your EQ is super high. So I'm guessing like being alone is probably not your favorite. So you want to meet somebody eventually.
Yeah, for sure. I am definitely a let me share my life.
Yeah, I can see that.
With you kind of guy.
I can see that. Okay, very good. Well, I appreciate you sharing that personal stuff. So you walk us before you had the entrepreneurial bug a little bit from your dad, obviously, but
I did, yeah, and helped him a lot. actually in his work. I was kind of like working part-time and helping him do a lot of things as he started a bunch of businesses.
But you didn't want to stay working for him. You wanted to go do your own thing.
I wanted to do something very specific, actually.
And talk to us about that goal early on there.
That's the gardener. Sorry.
That's all right. That's all good. Yeah, you got it blurred aside.
Totally. And of course, he's got the blower, which is really loud, right?
I can't hear it. I can't hear it. It's all good.
That's a giant dog. I wanted to be a consultant, business consultant, and I very specifically wanted to work for Anderson Consulting. I put all my eggs in one basket and I applied to one consulting firm.
And you got it.
It was a roll of the dice because I was like, holy shit, what if I don't, because that's what I wanted to do. What if I don't get that job? But it does speak to the power of, when you know what you want, you know what you want.
Good for you. Almost 6 years consulting. Yeah. That's longer than most young men make. What do they churn through those consultants pretty damn fast.
Yeah, 3 to 4 years is probably the average. And I had a unique experience there, Steve, because I got the job in the Philadelphia office, and my first projects were in the pharmaceutical world, which I actually loved. We were very focused on kind of like product lifestyle, product life cycle management, from commercialization on. Like once a drug gets into the commercialization phases, how do you get that drug to market as quickly as possible, right? Because every day is millions of dollars, right? That you're not in market. And I loved the work.
Did you? Okay.
And they, when I was rolling off my first project at Astra Merck at the time, I was like, I need to go to LA. Can I go to the LA office and you guys there's a shitload of biotech out there. Can you put me on a biotech project? So they transferred me to LA.
Cool.
You know where they staffed me?
Hollywood?
No, they staffed me in Philadelphia. They sent me back.
Oh, bummer.
To Astra Merck, which was becoming AstraZeneca. And they're like, we need you back. And for 2.5 years, every week but one weekend, I went back and forth.
No, dude. What? Fly out on Sunday?
Crazy shit like this when you're a kid.
Fly out on Sunday, fly home on Thursday?
Thursday, Sunday, yeah. Thursday, Sunday. And red eye Sunday, by the way. Red eye back to work Monday morning.
That is no life. That's no life.
Not sexy.
No. People, when you talk to young,
sexy at the time.
Well, of course, for like 6 months. And then you're like, this sucks.
But wait, I did it for 2.5 years. And then I actually transferred to the San Francisco office to get closer to biotech opportunities.
All right.
Transferred to San Francisco. Know where they staffed me?
Philly?
LA.
Oh. Well, that's an easier flight, but
it is an easier flight, but I was just in LA. I just lived in LA. So they staffed me in San Francisco, sent me back to LA to Amgen. Okay. So I did that for a year and I was like, I'm kind of burning out on the travel.
And do you consider yourself at that point, were you considering yourself a product manager, a sales guy? How were you bucketing yourself at the time?
When I was a consultant?
Yeah.
I was functionally. It's actually a really interesting question. And I think there's a really important answer for me and how my career evolved. We were called business integration consultants at the time.
Okay.
Which was the intersection between strategy, process, and technology.
All right.
The internet wave was just starting to happen. And that's what we were doing in the internet was having a strategy and automating processes over the internet, right? So it turned out to be perfect to go catch the wave of the internet, which everybody was jumping ship to do.
I see. And you didn't have any problems working with or for or alongside pharmaceutical companies. Back then they they all had better reputations. I don't know.
Back then we thought we were saving the world.
Yeah.
Like we were bringing Prilosec to market and bringing Atacand to market. And, nobody was talking about the horrific pharmaceutical reputation and and the politics of it all. We were talking about like we're saving lives, right? And so
I saw that. Did you see that Michael Keaton series where he dealt with? No, okay. Anyway, yeah, where he dealt. Yeah, bro. I was like, oh shit. It was based on the whole opioid epidemic in West Virginia.
I didn't see it. No, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. I was like, oh wow. Okay. So,
yeah.
Anyway, yeah. Okay. So anyway, so you're moving along. You're having a great career. You're getting promoted. You're going to these different companies. But didn't you somehow you start getting involved in startups or smaller companies? Something happened there.
Well, yeah. I mean, you go to catch the internet wave and you go to a startup, right? So every company was a startup. There were a million of them. I lived in San Francisco at the time.
Yep.
So I was in the epicenter.
Yep.
And I followed a mentor to more.com, which was an online Walgreens. It was an online pharmacy.
Oh.
And they sold product and they sold drug, pharmaceuticals.
Right.
And I was the product manager for the pharmacy. Now, first of all, I don't know if you remember back then, but everybody was a product manager. That was everybody's title. And nobody knew what it was. So even the person who led the team was like, you're supposed to write specs. So
this is when everybody's just writing checks for these tech companies.
I mean, crazy, just money flying everywhere. We had this beautiful office and there
burning cash every day. Might as well just put cash on the table and light it on fire.
Look, I was there for a year, and I think when I started, there were like 25 people, and there were like 500 when I left. I mean, it was like insane.
Damn. When did they fold? When did they?
They folded after I left. I there around for a couple more years.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Then you did another one.
Then I did another one, which they just IPO'd, and I was like, okay, this is stable.
This is safer.
Safer. I followed a mentor to Digital Think, which was really the pioneer in bringing training for employees. Companies train employees online. And they had two offerings. They had we built custom training for you, and we built off-the-shelf training. You select you buy our library.
Okay.
And the thing about Digital Think that was fascinating, and the reason that I went, was they just did a deal with EDS. You remember Ross Perot's?
Yes. Oh yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And the deal was for 100. EDS at the time had a strategy that they just adopted called dot everything. So their logo changed to EDS or dot EDS. And it was a dot everything strategy, which means it was like we're not doing the work unless it has to do with the internet. And so they did $100 million deal with EDS.
Wow.
50 million of it was to convert EDS University, which trained EDS professionals, into an online university.
Okay. And
$50 million was a go-to-market relationship where EDS would sell the services of Digital Think to help, create online universities, corporate universities.
Okay.
And I went. The deal was already done when I went there, but I went to manage the relationship. Now, so like, here's a kid who's like 20. I don't know, was like 27, managing a $100 million relationship. And
in the HR tech space, all of a sudden,
in the flat in the middle of the HR tech space, and I loved it because one of the things that happened that no one was expecting was not only like this relationship building. By the way, I was only responsible for the internal part.
Okay.
The EDS using our service.
Okay.
But I had to build these relationships. And it was really my first time where I was like literally responsible for the relationship. There was a number on my back. We had to deliver. It was half delivery. It was half like keeping the client. And I upsold them another $11 million, which was like, nobody was expecting that, right?
Sweet.
So it was like the first time where I was like, oh, wait, I can sell stuff. Like relationships is about expansion. and retention.
Yeah, you got the personality for it. You got you're perfect for it. I mean, yeah, you're perfect for it. So I could see why
I
you're
loved
successful.
it. I loved it. And then then Digital Think got acquired, the internet blew up and Digital Think got acquired by Convergys.
I see. Okay. And then what happened? You got recruited away by Cornerstone from Convergys, basically.
Well, no, from Convergys to Cornerstone. I wasn't recruited away. What happened was I moved. I wanted to get back to LA. I wanted to be in the sun.
Okay.
And so I had met Adam Miller, who was the founder of Cornerstone, when we were working a deal together at Convergys.
Okay.
At Digital Think. And when I got to LA, I had quit my job at Convergys, and I got to LA and I was opening a box of stuff to unpack. And I found the hat he gave me, which said Cyber U on it, which was the original name of Cornerstone, Cyber U.
Interesting.
And they were an online learning company, but they were the platform to deliver it. They're an LMS. And I called Adam, dusted off the hat, called Adam, asked him what he was up to, like not thinking I'd want a job here, definitely. And
so you're like, hey man, I'm in town.
Yeah, I'm in town. Hey, let's have a drink.
Yeah.
And he told me the real story of Cyber U and what his challenges were at the time. And his challenges were, they're about to go into their first round they were about 3.5 years old.
Okay.
They were going into their first round of renewals.
How big were they in revenue? How big were they in revenue at the time? You remember?
They were about $500,000 in ARR. When I left, we were $500 million.
Yeah, I was going to say, wow.
I mean, talk about a ride, right?
Wow.
But yeah, I basically, they had two issues. One, we have a new product that we can sell to our existing clients, and we're coming up on our first round of renewals.
Okay.
The question was like, who does that? He's like, I do. Steven does, the other founder,
I can do it.
Yeah,
I'm here. I'm available.
Account management, like relationship management, man, that's my thing. And so he hired me to build first account management.
Cool. Oh man, what a ride. Holy cow. Did you get equity in that deal?
I did get equity in that deal. Yeah, I was one of the original executive team. Like I was on the executive team like within a year.
I was going to say, and then you ended up being chief customer officer. Have they exited since then? And you got to cash out on the deal? You still got stock?
We went public in 2011.
And you scored on that deal?
We went private. I left, and then they took the company private. Then they merged with the biggest competitor, and now they're $1 billion in revenue, ARR.
Why'd you leave?
13 is my lucky number. I was there for 13 years.
That's a long time.
No, it's here's the real story.
It's a long time.
First of all, it's a lot. People say, why were you like today? You tell someone you're 13 years, they're like, what's wrong with you, right?
Yeah.
But I had several careers inside of Cornerstone.
Yeah. By the way, if people look you up on LinkedIn, they'll see your awesome career and your LinkedIn profile, which is fantastic.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, I started out building account management, which was about retention and growth. And then I started to build the other functions that were required to support the customer. Client success, which Cornerstone turned out to be a leading pioneer in for SaaS client success. And then like 5 or 6 other functions to really support the customer experience, customer operations, all these things. And then we went public and we wanted to get into Asia.
Okay.
And Adam, we hired a headhunter. We weren't finding anyone. We wanted to hire.
You know why you weren't finding anyone? Because you didn't hire Riderflex.
Well, clearly. So I'm going to call them today and be like, Bree, you got to talk to Steve.
You didn't find anyone. So he was like, hey, Frank, do you like 13-hour flights?
No, he literally like said, look, I need to talk to you. We're going to meet at Starbucks. And whenever we met at Starbucks, it was always like
serious.
It was serious. I was like, oh shit, I'm getting fired.
You speak Japanese, you speak Chinese, you speak Japanese, you speak any other languages?
No, he literally said the nicest, one of the biggest compliments that I ever got. He said, look, we've been looking for someone outside the company. We're not finding anyone. And I realized that we have someone who can do it. And like the next day I was like, yeah, I'll do it. I mean, I'm a just make decisions kind of guy.
Move or like over for a month, home for a month?
I moved to Hong Kong for almost 6 years. 5.5 in Hong Kong. The last 6 months was in Tokyo. I spent my last 6 months in Tokyo living, but and the question of, I'm coming to why I left.
All right.
I consider that endeavor to be incredibly successful. We started the company. I mean, it was basically me and a bag of money, right? There was no like plan yet. I went over and built the plan, and I had, a budget, but we started the company in 5 regions in 7 countries at the same time. And Adam and I both have big appetites. We're like, what are we going to do? Just like start in Japan or just start in Australia because they speak English? Like, we got to do it all. Our competitors are everywhere, which is why my beard is gray. My hair is gray. And
how did you function without being able to speak Mandarin or anything else?
So I chose Hong Kong because it's easy for, it's the largest expat community in the world. It was under British rule for 150 years.
All right.
And so unless you're in a taxi or a restaurant, you can speak English.
I see.
So, I had to learn where I lived. Wang Hao Dai Do Zhang Yi Ling Yi Ho Sheng Wanam Gai. And so I know how to get home. But what was really fascinating, and Steve, I learned more about myself as a human than I learned about business by doing this. But if you think about these cultures in these 7 countries,
yes,
they're just Asian cultures. They're vastly different.
Or what'd you have? Taiwan, Thailand, Vietnam?
So I had Japan, India, Australia, New Zealand, Singapore or Southeast Asia, mainland China, and Hong Kong, which were separated.
Okay.
And then eventually we added Korea.
Wow.
So, you're doing deals in India and you're doing deals in Japan. I promise you, these are like totally different, totally different things.
If you thought your EQ was high before that, it just went.
I don't know if I thought it, but
it went to this whole other level now of experience to be able to walk into rooms where the culture and the mannerisms and how you speak and look and present, bow and this and that, everything.
And where you sit and
where you just all of that, man. I mean, all of that can break deals, can cost millions, right?
And it can also get the deals done as a Western company coming in with a Western product, even though we were kind of like, we said we had a global product. You're met with skepticism. And so if I were to pat myself on the back for something, and I'll refer back to my superpower of learning how to really understand how to fit in and make people comfortable.
Can we just pause right there? Right there. Let's just take a breath. What you just said is, there's so much magic in the ability to do that. My co-founder at Riderflex, Scott, he is that person. I am the operations, I'm pushing the shit out of everybody, making people mad some days.
Yeah.
Scott knows how to do what you just said, make people comfortable. He can walk into any bar filled with any type of people you can name, and we'll be friends with them in like 6 minutes and be having drinks. Like,
yeah.
And people think, look, that's easy to like, that is a talent. That is a special talent.
It is. It is.
Really
but I learned it because, it's rooted in something I was forced to do as a coping mechanism,
Yes.
and so I learned that it was a superpower.
Wow.
It was about relationships.
Yes, dude. So much about that. Wow. Why'd you leave?
It took me a long time to learn.
Yeah. What were you just done 13 years? You're like, okay, I'm going to do something else. Did you get recruited away, or what happened there?
No, what happened was I came back.
Okay.
I was burning out.
Oh, I'm sure.
And by the way, I traveled 100% of the time. So I was in Hong Kong on the weekends, And every flight out of Hong Kong is international, so it's a process.
Do you remember your record? Do you remember your record year on miles? What your highest?
I don't know, but I'm
mileage?
a multi-million dollar miler.
Yeah.
I mean, Cathay Pacific was like, who's this Westerner? Like, like coming in and, making heat on our routes.
You have the life pass? Are you a lifer first? Are you a lifer?
I'm a lifer on American and on United. Okay. And Cathay Pacific, I threatened American to not make me that because Cathay. I'm like, I'm going to keep flying Cathay if you don't make me a lifer.
Okay. Anyway, sorry, you were burned out, so you wanted to come back.
I was burning out. I knew it. I'm one of my non-superpowers is that I persevere until I'm dead. And so, I can keep going at my own expense. And so I knew I was starting to really feel the burnout. And I called Adam. My answer was like, I'm not finished with my charter here. Okay. So my response was, I'm going to move to Sydney. I had friends there. I'm going to do it from Sydney. Now, the closest flight from Sydney I'm sorry.
Yeah. You took the words right out of my mouth. I was going to be like, but your
8 hours to Singapore, 14 hours to Hong Kong. It's like wacky world. So, the saving grace over there, Steve, is for the most part, you're going north to south. So you're not crossing 17 time zones like going from LA to Hong Kong.
I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah. Okay. So, you take off in Hong Kong and 11 hours later you land in Sydney and it's 2 hours difference.
I see.
So,
okay.
But I called Adam and I was like, dude, I'm moving to Hong Kong. I'm moving to Sydney. And no, actually, I called him and I left a message. Didn't tell him what I need to talk to him. He didn't call me back for like 2 or 3. No, I left him a message that said I need to move to Sydney, and he didn't call me back. It was like 2 or 3 days, and I was like, oh, God. I sent him an email. He didn't respond.
Does my corporate credit card still work? Has it been canceled?
Well, you know what? This is what I really appreciate about Adam. He really does take on what you're saying.
Oh, okay.
And he processes it and he thinks about it.
Cool.
And he called me 3 days later and he's like, I thought about what you said in your voicemail. Why don't you just come home and do the job from here? Because I had already, this infrastructure was built. It was running. All the countries had general managers. And I was like, I never thought about that. So I came back and I did it for a year from LA, and I went back once a quarter.
Okay. Yeah, that works.
And then we were reorganizing the company. We were going through a major transformation, and I became the chief customer officer. And my remit was really to create a strategy around, look, we had just gone to $500 million in ARR. When you think about the customer portfolio and now going to what we wanted to go to $1 billion, how do you think about the customer portfolio differently? Whether it be the metrics and the insights, whether it be the approach for managing the experience, all these things.
Yep.
How do we treat our top 20 customers, which were massive amounts of revenue, right?
Yes.
And so I created this strategy that I thought was pretty damn beautiful, and I presented it and I resigned. And I knew in my heart, I just wasn't in it.
I got you.
I didn't want to do a disservice to the company that I loved and helped build. And I wanted to also not do a disservice to myself of persevering. I needed a little break.
Yeah, I was going to say, and you were getting older and you're getting tireder than you used to get when you were 30. And you're like, man, I could use a break. And were you also having that, I don't want to call it a midlife crisis, but were you having that like, wow, my window of time here on planet Earth is actually kind of shrinking. If I do want to do anything else, I need to probably do it pretty soon. Were you having that moment?
100%. But I also said I needed a little time off.
Okay. So you took some time, chilled.
I chilled. I did. I took 1.5 years off.
Good for you.
I did amazing things. I went and studied French in France and was writing. By the way, my mind never stop. So I was writing business plans on napkins like every 3 days on a beach in France. And all of those ideas were in the area of wellness and well-being.
And were you a healthy? So now we're getting into it. And by the way, I want to just Maavee, Maavee, and it's gomaavee.com. Gomaavee.com.
Perfectly said.
Were you always a eat right, exercise, yoga, whatever? Were you always kind of a in shape, decent, take care of myself guy? Because you look that way now, and your photo on LinkedIn looks like you're always was like that.
Always like that, but never well.
Mentally, so psychologically.
I don't mean never well like I had, emotional problems, but like I never really gave myself a chance to show up as Frank, not Frank who works for Cornerstone, who's chief customer officer here, who's in Asia there, who's, in a Japanese business meeting or an Indian business meeting. I never had that opportunity. And I really craved it.
I'm letting that sink in. You're right, because all those meetings and all those different cultures, you're trying to win over clients. Got to make sure, I got to make sure Johnny likes me, and I got to go over here. I got to kiss Mary's ass for 2 hours, and I got to do this different culture. I got to put this face on. Now I got to put this uniform on. I got to fucking smile for 8 hours. I got to nod my head and be like, oh, what you just said is so awesome. You guys are the coolest fucking people on the planet. That wears your ass out, doesn't it, Frank?
Two other things you have to do. Or sorry, two other things. You have to every day whip up a batch of Kool-Aid that everybody else needs to drink because you're the leader, right? And I'm an introvert. So I wouldn't have like a triple whammy.
Okay. Yeah. You go back to the hotel, you're like this.
Yeah, dead. So I need to be alone to recharge. And so I'm social.
All right.
But I just, took a lot of my energy.
So as you're doing this time off, you're realizing this about yourself. You're starting to become well, as you would.
Yeah, I was becoming expansive, mentally, emotionally, physically. Like I was available to me and to others.
Wow, cool.
And when you don't have 100%, 150% of work taking up your noggin, dude, it is. You're like, whoa, I'm like Superman shit going on. At least the way I was like showing up to life. Yeah.
That's so good. Okay. So did you think to yourself, I want to help other people through? Did it start out that way? I want to help other people through this, and I want to create something, a tool, and then that turned into a SaaS.
There was an interim step. Like I was making these business plans. I came back from my little time off away in Europe. I got back and I chose one of these business plans, and I got a friend of mine who used to work at Cornerstone, who I absolutely love, Isadora Dantas. And I said, hey, she's a designer. And I said, can you help me design some of these screens, like, so we can do a proof of concept? And she was into it, and we did it. And then out of nowhere, I get a call from Ariana Huffington.
Really?
To go join her wellness company. Now, I had wellness on my mind. So I was like, this is a universe thing, like kind of
very possible. Yeah. Things happen for a reason. Everything happens for a reason.
And it was, like I loved what they were doing. It was amazing role. And so I went to do it, and I moved to New York for a hot second, and I didn't stay very long. Yeah. And the reason was too
late. You already had the bug. You had the entrepreneurial bug.
I had the entrepreneurial bug. I had a little bit of like a health thing that was concerning me that I had to deal with, but COVID was happening and the writing was on the wall.
Okay.
That like the world was about to blow up. And I was like, I need to go back and take care of some things.
Okay.
And then I resigned, unfortunately, and didn't get to see that fully through, but
that's okay. It wasn't meant to be.
Wasn't meant to be, but I really respect what they're doing. And 5 days later, we go into lockdown. So in this spot at this kitchen table, I literally was like, I got to dust off one of my like, what am I doing? I don't have a job. I'm locked in my house. I called Isadora. I'm like, let's pivot this idea. And for 6 months during COVID, on my big screen, and using Figma, I'd be like, Isadora, let's think about this. And she'd be designing it. I'm like, no, move that there. And let's do this. And she'd be like, well, what about community? And we designed.
What about the coding? What about the coding?
It was all design first.
Okay.
We designed out the experience around how to navigate a wellness journey.
That is interesting. Now, I have had a shit ton of people on the podcast, a bunch of tech people, and I know a lot of people in the space. I have never heard anybody tell me that they designed it just with the designer before a coder ever got involved. That is interesting, Frank.
You know why? Because I wasn't sure if we were building a company or not building a company. And we got into this rhythm of like,
interesting.
Well, wait, what about this? And what about and all of a sudden we've got like a 3-year roadmap and no company. And then I was like, well, I should start talking to people about this idea.
Yeah, right.
And people were like, this is amazing. And cool. So I was like, well, let's do it. And we started the company, and that was it.
All right. Did you bootstrapped it yourself?
Raised a little bit of money from friends and family, bootstrapped it myself, put in a lot of my own money. It's not super comfortable, to keep putting in your own money. Doesn't feel lovely. But
especially when you don't have a check coming in the other direction.
By that point, I hadn't like made money in like 3 years, right? Because COVID wasn't making me.
Man.
But Steve, so happy.
That's so great, buddy.
To be like doing this design work and watching her do it and watching it come to life. You can code anything.
Yeah.
But to really have thought through an entire vision, and I don't know that we would have done it that way if it wasn't COVID. I think we would have built some stuff, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It worked
but now
out.
We're in the market. We have clients, and it's fascinating.
Yeah. So tell me, give us the. Do you mind if you go over a couple of minutes? Are you okay going over a couple of minutes? Okay.
Please.
Give us the 3-minute elevator, the pitch for everybody right now. And I want to go back to the URL. Maavee is the company, gomaavee.com. And don't forget, you can also reach out to Frank on LinkedIn. He's got a great LinkedIn profile with a pretty big following. Frank Ricciardi, and it's Ricciardi. Give us the 3-minute elevator pitch for Maavee. Go ahead.
First, it forced us to beg the question, what is wellness? And so that's what I wanted to answer first. And after really thinking about that for a lot of time, I realized wellness is like life. It's a journey, not a destination. Maybe well-being is the aspirational place that you want to end up, but wellness is a journey that never ends. Yours is different than mine. Your needs, your interests, your context, your environment, constantly changing and fluid. And there is no silver bullet to being well.
No.
So you can go buy this and buy that, and it is not going to, in and of itself, make you holistically well.
Agreed.
And so the second question was, then in this journey, what's included? It's your body, it's your mind, it's your heart, it's your soul. It's your work, it's money, and it's the planet. We can no longer separate our own well-being from that of the world in which we live. Just turn on the news. I don't have to convince you of that. And at the end of the day, it's all so interconnected. So if I want to be mentally well, I don't know if you would really start to think about your gut microbiome and if there's a connection, but there is. And if you want to be physically well, it means that you also need to be strong here and show up for whatever physically was. So it's also connected. And as you know, and hyper accelerated by COVID, everybody's looking for center and purpose.
Yes.
And are reprioritizing the way that they think about themselves in the world. So we said, how do we get people to navigate a journey well? And we think you need four things.
Okay.
Three are at the core. Content and media to inform, inspire, and nudge you along the way.
Yes.
Community for connection and support.
Okay.
Commerce, the ability to shop well, to be well. So we are natural curators. Let's call it a marketplace, as part of the solution of the very best wellness products and services out there.
Now that's going to definitely, that's a differentiator right there for sure.
It's a differentiator.
Yep.
And especially when you combine the three, it is a really fascinating intersection Venn diagram. Think about content, community, and commerce.
All right.
At the intersections, you get inspiration, you get support, and you get the ability to discover. So think about life. What's life about? It's not about the outcome. It's about bumping around and finding out what works and doesn't work for you. That's the beauty of life. It is the beauty of wellness. You have to find what works for you and acknowledge that that will change over time. So we are consumers. And I don't know if you know this, but the global wellness industry is $4.4 trillion. It's the size of Japan, basically. So there's a lot of great stuff out there. Wow. There's a lot of shit out there.
Oh, no doubt about it. What's the fourth leg there?
And the fourth are features, because we've built an app. It's a platform. And these features are designed to keep you engaged, designed to have social impact in the world as well. So it's all rooted in the power of the collective.
Okay.
If I can get Steve to calculate his carbon footprint and be aware of it, it's interesting. If I can get 1 million people to do it, it's more interesting. If I can get Steve to give $25 to charity, it's interesting. If I get 1 million people to do it, it's more interesting. So they're all about well-being, and they're not all there yet. We've delivered about 5 to 7% of our vision, right?
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
We're not fully in the market. What we have today is a solution that we bring to employers, where employers put money in your digital wallet for you to spend along your personal wellness journey and choose from wellness, the best wellness stuff out there. We say to the employer, go ahead.
All right. So the third leg is your first focus. Is that the third leg you mentioned is your first?
The first, content and market are the first two focuses.
Okay.
And some features, like the ability to gift wellness to your partner.
I see.
Gift wellness to charity. Get inspirational nuggets.
And the gifting part by the employer needed to go out ahead of some other stuff, because that's probably a business model that drives cash back your way to fund this whole thing.
Say that one more time. I didn't quite catch that.
So the ability for employers to gift wellness and supply to fund the app for their employees, getting that going pretty quick was key, because that generates revenue to the company.
It generates revenue to the company when the person transacts, when they actually spend the money. So it does sit there. It's a liability on the books until it gets spent. But it's very intentionally well-being, Steve. It's the easy button. We're focused on small and medium-sized businesses, not the IBMs of the world first. We don't discriminate against them, but they have 50 wellness solutions at IBM. So we go to the small and medium-sized businesses, which is an underserved market, and we're the easy button. You could load 1,000 people in 5 minutes and be active. There's no implementation.
Perfect example. Then I'm going to ask you for a perfect example of this, because this just happened. So at Riderflex, we got about 30 people involved in the company. Probably 15 of them are full-time. Yeah. My wife is, I'm upstairs and she's like, it's the end of the quarter. Like, we need to do something for everybody. And of course, me being the ops guy, I'm like, what? Okay. I guess, I don't know. Ask Scott about it. I'm just joking about that part, but
by the way, I've talked to Scott about it. So let's talk.
She's like, we need to do something. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I guess. What do you mean? She goes, let's send him a gift card or let's buy him lunch. I'm like, all right, cool. Go for it.
That's it. That's one use case. Imagine saying, I want to give people $50 a month as a wellness benefit.
We could have just been like, yeah, call Frank, use the wellness thing.
That's right. Easy. And we have companies that do that. We have companies that give people $100 for their birthday, people who give $50 a month, people who say, hey, it's your first day with the company.
Yeah, good.
Here's $100. We want you to be well on this ride with us. So lots of different use cases.
Is it like a Vimeo? Like, I don't know. How, is it? Okay. You I'm sorry, the employer puts cash in the thing.
Yep. Load
The-
users, how much do they get? We push a button, boom, they get an approval. They say, yep, that's right, click, boom, done.
And then do I, as a user, I log in, I have to sign up or anything?
You get a text with the app. You get an invitation email.
Okay.
You answer 2 questions and you get a text message with the app link in it.
And if Riderflex gave me $100 and I get this thing, and then I can go and I can use $100 for any items on the platform.
In the platform, exactly.
And
including giving it to your wife if you wanted.
I see.
Super
Are
cool.
you quickly filling it up with all kinds of different items?
There is we have almost 1,000 products and services in this platform today. There is no end in sight in a market the size of the consumer wellness market. And our curators are, well, by the way, let me put the bow on it. When we curate, Steve, we don't just curate for well-being. We also make sure that we have a methodology for making sure that the brand is doing good in the world. They have a demonstrated commitment to the environment, to society, and to you, the consumer.
Very good.
So now purposeful benefits to your employees.
The companies that have those goods, they ship it out. You're not dealing with any inventory or anything.
We are a zero inventory, technology-enabled market network. We do the order, it automatically shows up in their e-commerce system. They do fulfillment. Anybody has a problem, they call us. Guess how many returns we've had since we've gone live? 0.
Nice.
0 returns.
Very, very okay. I love it. I love it. Do you have a lot of competition? You don't have to name the competition.
Look, the competition are the million HR solutions out. I mean, God, if I were an HR buyer right now, I'd be really like, oof. But, everybody's a wellness company. Everybody's a technology company. Everybody's an AI company. So here, I would say the biggest competition are more the solutions that require implementation of a platform. And they're generally called either reimbursement or lifestyle spending platforms.
I see. Where
the employer says, hey, you can spend $50 a month on transportation. You can spend $100 a month on your gym. You can spend, and it reimburses you for these things.
Okay.
We're doing the easy button, no implementation, right? Small businesses don't have time for implement a platform. And these platforms are great, but they're designed for the employer. Our solution is designed for you. The employer can't do much.
Very good. I love it. How big is your team? How far? I know you said you're just getting started. You said you're 5% launched, basically. I don't know if you
5% of our vision has been delivered to the market.
Oh, okay.
We're in market. We have clients, and we have 2 different use cases, which is really interesting.
Okay.
This is one use case, which are employers, but we're a B2B2C company. So think of us as a platform company, marketplace at the core. We're actually, we're just about to launch a media company. So that's going after the well-being market. They're called the Whole Living Network, founded by former executives at Discovery Plus and Oprah.
Okay.
They're building a media company that they are going to enable through a digital platform and a marketplace. Guess who that is? It's us. So there are giant communities out there, audiences that can benefit from our platform and the ability to shop well, to be well. And so how do you bring people to the best of wellness? Through media.
Did you say you were going to start a podcast, or you already got one going on? Speaking of media,
we started I'm not going to call it a podcast yet, but we started a conversation with our brand partners, because part of our value proposition.
I like that.
I mean, look, these brands are creators. They're solving problems in the world. They get up every morning to make the world a better place. And we want to give them the opportunity to tell their story.
I like it.
To our users.
I like it. Plus, you have the personality for it. I mean, you look like a TV guy. Yeah, I mean, you look like you should. You look like you should.
My mom will smile at that.
Yeah, you should definitely. Are you planning on being on the show, or if you do a podcast, you plan on?
I'm going to be the host.
Yes, dude.
I'm going to be the host. And WLN, I'm hoping, the Whole Living Network, they're going to create a show called I think it's called The Creators.
Cool.
I'm like, I want to host it. Like, I want to get into entertainment. I live in LA.
You're right there. It's like, I mean, you're perfect for it. Oh man, I love it. You said you're in a cash raise. Anything you want to mention on that while we're still recording, or we'll save that for later? Or what are we doing there?
Yeah, I mean, we're it's wacky capital world, and we're going to go out. So we're preparing now.
Okay.
We're like I said, we did a kind of a small friends and family, and the rest is us. But we're going to go out for a formal round, and
I love it.
And we're going to go do the next 20% of our vision, and
I love
get things moving.
I love it. I want to just, as we're way over on time here, I apologize, but I want to just call out something in particular you mentioned a couple of times. And I think, some people might think, oh, this is cheesy or whatever, when me and you harp on this, but really, I want people to understand it. You said the journey several times, and you are a journeyman for sure, because you've been around the world.
And a personal journeyman. I'm learning to be on a personal journey.
For any younger person, especially out there, I know what it's like to be, if I just get this job, my life will be better. If I can just get that car, or if I can just move to that town, or if I could just live in that neighborhood, or if I could just get that house, everything then is going to be great or perfect. If I could just get to this point on the map. And it is just not about that, man. You will never find long-term true happiness living and thinking that way. It is about the experiences and the journey. I heard this great quote. I'm a huge camper, Jeep mountain guy.
Yep.
Because I live in Colorado, and I'm all about the journeying to the outside. And I was listening to this YouTube couple that goes camping all the time. She goes, I don't want my life to be dictated by material things. I want my life to be dictated by the experiences I'm chasing. And I just thought, that is so beautiful. Like, that is it right there. And you're saying the same thing.
It is. And look, I kind of summarize it in this way, and it's a slightly different way of saying what you're saying. But I mean, first of all, we've been taught this, right? So this is a deep, materialism or whatever you want to call it is ingrained in our nature. So it's not just something you turn off. It requires you to be aware of the not joy you get at each time you achieve the next thing. It's like, okay, yeah, but now I still want the next thing. And yeah, look, I'm not saying don't want stuff. I'm not saying don't achieve, but I am saying you have to put energy out into the world in order for things, and I don't necessarily mean the car or the house, but I believe that works too. But you have to put energy out into the world for things to come back to you. And the real question is, what energy are you putting into the world, and are you aware of it? Because if you're not, I mean, that's life's work.
Right. It is.
So you can attract all kinds of stuff and you can achieve all kinds of stuff, but you're not going to be happy unless you understand what you're putting out and is coming back.
So true. Oh, we can wrap it up right there, my friend. Perfect summary statement. Frank, thank you so much for sharing your journey on the Riderflex podcast. I really appreciate it, man.
Awesome. I really loved it. And I was glad to get intimate with you. Thanks for asking the questions.